Hello people, welcome back. So here we are for Miami Grand Prix. Let me just return to the pits because it's so noisy with this guy in here. Ah, no, not replay. Oh well, since we had the replay, might as well go watch our laps, how we take the lap first. So let's blip, 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 blip. What do we do? What do we do? End the session. Yes, that's how you look at the replay. So congratulations, your lap has been uploaded, blah 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 blah. Okay, now let's take a look at the fastest lap. Now before I go into this, I must say I think I spent like, I don't know, almost 6-7 hours just to get somewhere competitive with this setup. This track feels a little unfinished from the force feedback and all. You just don't feel the grip compared to other tracks. One tip that I will definitely give you is, if you struggle to feel anything with the car, if your wheel feels a little light, you can always increase the damper in your either your profiler, wheel profiler, or in the in-game settings, either one. So that will give you some weight to the wheel and you can feel the car a little bit more, especially in the low speed. High speed, it's all okay. The car naturally has a good amount of downforce, you can feel it. But really it's in the slow speed corners where you will have the lack of feeling to push. So that's one tip you can use. Let's get into the fastest lap here, and by all means it's not the fastest in the world. Exit, pretty much you want to make sure you get a as straight as possible exit, because although it's a very short run down to turn 1, it is an important DRS zone. In qualifying, yeah, maybe if you mess it up it's okay, but in the race it can be a crucial overtaking zone if someone in front of you has a bad run out of it. So stick to the right to gain a few more thousands. DRS is activated right around here. This is a line as you go over the kink, and be careful not to mount this sausage cup on the inside. Qualifying, again, you can do this. In the race, avoid it, especially if it's wet, because it can spin you out on full throttle. So you can take it something like this, as you can see. You can take a bit, but not too much of it. And then stick to the right, and then slowly bring the car over to the left. And you want to be braking. In qualifying, you can brake right about the 100-meter board or just slightly after that. In the race, if you're following someone, you want to be careful. You can always brake after this black box or the 100-meter board. So from my POV, it looks like this. Right as I hit the 100, stamp on the brakes, full 100% brakes. I use 51 for the entire lap for a good reason, because the setup is a little too pointy, but I need that pointiness to get some lap time in this track. And I use 51 to make sure the rear of the car is stable, especially going into corners like this where I have to trail brake quite heavily. So turn 1, down to 5th gear or even 4th gear, whichever you want. If you're on 5th gear, you can trail brake a little bit more, or add some more front wing to your car setup, and you are able to make the turn. You have to be really tight into the first turn here. Preferably take a bit of the curb without unsettling the car, or you can just miss it, but you need to get a straighter exit. On the exit, straighten your car as quick as you can, a little quicker than what I did here. The reason is, the straighter your car is, the better your traction is going to be. And for the short straight before you hit the apex of turn 2, you can go full throttle. In qualifying, yes. In race, perhaps about 80-90% throttle. Go flat, and then I shift up to 6 before I take the apex here, touch it a bit, and then when I flick it right over here, just a little bit, not taking the entire curve, as you can see on the replay here. I'm not going fully over it, but when I hit the curb, I'm taking only about 80% ish throttle, maybe less, maybe more. As you can see from the replay earlier, you will notice that that's what's happening. The reason is because if you go full throttle on this, that's what's going to happen. Now once you're done, keep the steering wheel straight. Let's have a look here again. Keep it straight. You can turn, of course you have to turn, otherwise you're going to hit the wall. So you'll have to balance this. You have to try this out throughout your race and qualifying to see what is the balance. When you're going full throttle, how much can you turn? If you turn too much, you're going to spin. If you turn too little, you're going to go straight into the wall and lose some more time. It's going to be a balancing act over here. But as soon as you feel like the car is like having the grip to turn fully, just keep turning and turning. Be patient, very patient. You can run wide. I like to take the line a little wider and then cut back in. That's how I feel I can find the time. You may be able to find time differently by going tight from the beginning itself. So to each their own. And heading down to the next sector, where it is going to be the high speed section here of sector 1. Line up yourself as much as to the right you can, and then right after the 50-meter board, or even this black box, depending on how you set up your car or how you want to take the corners. I like to take this first corner quite tight, so that I open up the rest of the sequence. So take this curb. Actually, my worst attempt. I did gain more time by mounting a bit more, but this is also okay. You can take this curb, and then if you notice in my lap as well, I'm not braking that much. At most, maybe in the race, I'm going to be applying small amount of braking power before I turn in, and maybe downshift, especially if I'm following someone. Now the reason for doing so is, in a race you have a heavier car. You also have maybe harder tires, mediums or hards. You're not going to be having the exact amount of grip of softs in this condition, so you have to be a little more cautious with your lines. But still, pretty much you want to be taking roughly about the same lines so that you gain the time out of it. I like to sacrifice this first corner here to open up the entry of this right-hander, which I do take a lot of it. Again, this comes down to your setup. If your ride height is pretty high and you have good ground clearance and good throttle application while you're going on the curb, you will be able to take this. Otherwise, round you go again. And then here, short burst of full throttle, and then just lift again. Take this curve again. It somewhat helps you to rotate the car. If you take this curve correctly without turning too much, it will help you to rotate the car for your next sequence here. Now here's where it gets tricky. This turn 7, as you know, there is track limits issue in this track when coming to turn 7. You can run wide, fully off the track, and then cut back in. You gain time, or you don't lose time, but you still don't get an invalidation. Obviously, don't do that if you're league racing and whatnot. You will get penalized probably by your organizers and stewards. But if you just going for the fastest lap, whatever, if you want to invalidate, go ahead. I'm not looking. No one's looking. It's on your own. But if you want to stay in the valid lap time, you have to get your car as close as to the limits you can outside here. So this is just about on the limits, millimeters. I think a little bit more on the front left. If I'm a bit more to the right, I'll be invalidating it. Where do you exactly brake? Now this is again a blind braking zone. To get it right, I will sort of explain. As you can see, these two P0 signs on the outside here on the black tarmac. So right in between there on my peripheral vision, so I'm looking on the left as I'm getting ready to turn, but when on my outside of my eye, when I hit this black part between the two yellow signs here, that's where I start to brake and then turn and turn and turn. As I turn more, I release the brakes and then get the car turned in. And as you see, this painted curb ends, this red and white curb ends, and the blue part of the curb starts. That's why I start to turn in the car into the apex. So before that, I'm just turning to get the car into the apex here at turn 7 to the right, and then as soon as I hit this or about to hit this blue part, I start turning in left again. Again, this is all about feeling, all about momentum, and you have to pick your own braking marker. If you're using lines, good for you. If you're not using lines like me, so you have to find a way to get a proper reference. Do not use any shadows on the track or any moving markers. Since these are pretty much permanent markers over here, I use this as a good visual reference. And then on the exit here, upshift to 5th to reduce the wheel spin on the exit, and try to straighten your wheel as soon as you can while you're applying more and more power. That is the way you're gonna be gaining time on exits in this game pretty much, and also in real life, that's how they do it. And my straightening is almost straight here, but most important thing is when you hit this curb, you want to make sure your steering is fully straight. There are times where you may run even wider than this and you go even more. As you can see, my floor is just about on the curb. That's okay. Ideally, I want to take this slightly more to the left. I only want my right wheels to be on the curb. Either way, it will work. As long as you keep your steering straight, you have good ground clearance with good ride height, you will make this easily. and then flat out here, stick to the left, and then stick to the right here to get a few more thousands. DRS line is under this bridge. It may be blocked by shadows, but as soon as you pass this bridge, that's where you're going to activate your DRS. This is the line, and then stick to the left to gain a few more thousands here for as long as you can. And usually right about here, when I start to see the red dot up ahead, that's why I bring back my car over to the right side so that I can get a good entry into the next part. This is going to be the slowest part of the track and the one that will require a lot of mechanical grip, and that's why I made quite a you can say unconventional changes to my setup to feel good about it. You want to be braking about the 100 meters. In the dry it's about the same, in the wet's probably somewhere around 125 you want to brake. A good reference point will be this 100-meter board if you can spot it from far. Second best option will be as soon as you pass this Emirates bridge over here. So have a listen to the car engine sound as I'm trying to brake, and you can get an idea of when to brake. There you go. This shadow over here, it's also a good reference point, but like I say, shadows can change over time. If it's overcast, you may not be able to see the shadow. If it's raining, you will not be able to see it. So your best two reference is going to be this 100-meter board and the Emirates board. So use whichever you like. And then I like to shift down to fourth here, and then maybe just this time I had to shift down to third just to get the car turned into the corner. But as soon as I'm past the apex, I'm a little wide here. I should be tighter to the left, so definitely a few more thousands to find, maybe even a full tenth if I can keep it tighter on the entry, on the exit here. But doesn't matter, the lines that you take throughout this sector can vary. So I shift up to 40 immediately. This one is pretty much like Jeddah last year, so there are two lines here, but you want to be making sure that you are sticking as close to the right as you can. Flick the car to the right, and then just about here where you can see this red and white curb meets the blue part of the curb, that's where I shift down just to guide the nose turned in, and then shift back up to fourth. So I'm already up to fourth gear now, as you can see from the Williams steering wheel, so a little pepeg, and then shift to fifth as I'm exiting this corner here. The reason is because the rear gets a little loose, quite loose actually, throughout this section. So keeping it in fifth allows me just to put down the power, not necessarily full throttle, but allow me to go a little more confidently on throttle into the next sector. So power on, cut this part, stick to the left. I didn't really do that much because I was afraid of hitting the wall. In the race, maybe you'll take this line, it's a bit more conservative but safer. Now this is where you can make or break your lap. In my previous attempts, I've been losing half a second here compared to my rivals. So what you want to be doing is you probably will be entering the corner diagonally, but you want to trail brake into the next corner. As you can see, I'm already turning slightly left. That's because I'm coming into the corner and already turning in left. And as soon as I hit the starting of this curve where again red and white meets the blue part, or when you hit the black board, that's why I brake. And take a look back at the start of the video at this part of the track, how much I'm braking. I'm not braking full throttle, just trying to brake a little bit at the same time turn the car in, and that's trail braking. And then I get the car down to third gear. You have to be really brave around here. This is the part that can kill you if you don't make this correctly. And after a million tries, I'll say finally I figured out how to take this correctly. And after watching other people's onboards in RaceNet and all that, so I think I finally found a sweet spot that I can take. First part, the left-hander, cut as much as you can. Once you cut it, keep your steering as straight as you can. You can cut this second part fully, but I prefer to only take this upper part without taking the sausage, the orange sausage. Avoid that. You can take the red and white curve. I like to let it run wide a bit more, or you can pull the car back into the right as soon as you want. Third gear, fourth gear, whichever you want. And then on the exit, you want to get a late apex coming out of this corner. Reason is there's a long straight up ahead. if you get a late apex, you can get your power down early. You will gain a few tenths, not a few tenths, a few thousands, few hundreds, maybe even a full tenth and a half if you nail the exit. So on the exit, fourth gear, slam the throttle, and then it's a flat out zone from here. DRS will be somewhere around here. As soon as you pass this the Aramco boards over here, as soon as that ends, that's the DRS detection zone. So you can use that as a mental note rather than looking out for the DRS line. As soon as you pass that, click the DRS button, keep it straight all the way down to the final ish corner, and after the 100-meter board, that's at the 100-meter board, just about there, that's where you want to brake. A good visual reference again to prepare yourself for braking into this corner is this Aramco board. As soon as you pass that, brake. So I brake just right about in between of this Aramco board and the 100-meter board, this Aramco board on the top. So it's pretty difficult again to spot the braking markers at this part because there's a lot of trees, there's a lot of foliage around, and a lot of shadows that might block your vision. So better stay tight again to the right to open up the entry and exit. So 100 meters, brake down as hard as you can, and then trail brake into the corner. You do not want to be missing the apex like I did here, but somehow despite missing the apex, I carried good amount of speed on the exit. Not ideal though, but if you nail the entry and carry a good amount of speed as well, you will gain even more time than what I did. On the exit, shift up to fourth, straighten your car as much as you can, as early as you can. This is the detection line anyway, not DRS yet. You wanna try to accelerate full throttle from here itself, and just have to be very confident on the throttle here. A little hesitation and you will lose some time down the straight. Once you feel the car is stable enough, go for it. Slam the throttle, fourth gear, fifth gear, stick to the right here to gain some few thousands on the entry to the finishing line, and poof, that's a time in Miami. So 27.2 in time trial. I am not doing a league race in this season, but probably later down this year or maybe next year. For the following season, I do have Miami race coming up, so I'll be back with an updated setup. Follow me in Discord, and you can definitely get some updated setups, which I'm yet to post anyway. Here as well, you can get the setups over here, will be listed in the description, and you can always come back and view other setups as well wherever the description thing shows up. And now let's get into the setup. How do we tackle Miami with a good setup? What do we need? High downforce, low downforce? Answer is obvious, but not so obvious, because you want low downforce for all the straights, but you also want some amount of wings, some amount of downforce to make sure you can survive the corners around here. Not too high, not too low of downforce. You need some amount, I'd say, mainly for sector 2, the slow part. That's why you can gain a lot of time. In slower corners, you gain a lot more time. So in the fast corners, you can just make it up with good lines and carrying good momentum through the corners. So setup 14-12 on the wings. Pretty stable for me. I think when I tried this in Grand Prix and online mode, ERS regen is about 3% per lap. It is pretty difficult to regenerate ERS around here, so you may feel like let's just go 0-0 and save ERS. It's going to be pretty difficult again, because you're going to be losing a lot more lap time compared to those around you, and in sector 2 it's going to be nightmare. So some amount of downforce will be good. For the rain, just push the downforce plus 10 each and you'll be good. If it's mixed condition, I recommend just going about 2 or 3 clicks higher from this, maybe even 4 or 5, not too much. If it's fully dry, you can go like this, you can go even lower if you want, you can go higher, whichever way you prefer. Transmission, 55 on throttle, 50 off throttle, because this track is somewhat rear limited. There's a lot of slow corners. You want to make sure your rear is not sliding out too much. If you reduce your on throttle too much, reduce your off throttle too much, when you throw your car into corners, whether it's slow or fast corner, the rear of the car will step out and it can induce some oversteer, and it's pretty hard to save the car, especially in the race. In qualifying, you can run 50, that's no problem. In the race, I'll prefer something higher like 51, just to keep the rear a bit more stable. Red tire wear is somewhat of a factor around here, so having this higher will also look after your rear tires in the race. On throttle, 55 to 60 is the sweet spot. 55 you just want a bit smoother traction. 56 if you want a bit more kick out of the corner. No, not 56. 60 if you want a bit more kick out of the corner. But either way, 55 is the lowest I will recommend in any condition. Suspension geometry, right, left. I tried to play around with the rear toe just to find a bit of stability and time, but it's just a little too understeery. I try to compensate that with, you know, maybe one extra front wing, but it doesn't feel as nice as I like. So I'll keep this the same, just so, you know, I get a consistent feeling throughout all the tracks. Suspension, yeah, what a surprise. There was a variation where I tried 11.1, 11.1, and it felt pretty good. But the problem is, in this track there's a lot of slow corners and a lot of tight corners, especially in the middle sector in that chicane Mickey Mouse place. So having 11.1, 11.1 is not really ideal to get your car turned in quickly. Even in like turn 1, you can feel the difference. The car is a little more sluggish on a stiff setup, you know, stable setup like this. So normally I have a preset that I start with 6161 on the suspension and roll bars. That felt okay. I thought let's go 11.1, 11.1 and try it out, but nothing seemed to work given how I was feeling with this track. So, you know, last option, just go back to the complete opposite. 1.1, 1.1. Surprisingly, it felt good. And well, the only problem is now the car is a little oversteery. Previously I was running something like 18-12 wings or 17-12 with the 11.1, 11.1 suspension. So, you know, it was quite balanced. Now that this is giving me a lot more rotation on the rear, a lot more pointiness on the front as well. So I reduced the front aero to compensate for that, and the result, faster overall, faster cornering and faster on the straights, and not really trouble for me there. Again, if you wanna be a bit more tentative, a bit more safe with your setup, you can always increase your anti-roll bar on the front. If your car is too oversteery in mid corner, let's say you are turning in, applying throttle and the car just slips away, you can try a little more front roll bar and also a little more front suspension. Go one click at a time to find out the difference. Ride height, again, it's somewhat of a black magic in this game. I put it up to 6 because I want a bit more stability on the rear when I'm going to the high speed sector 1, the left, rights and all. Otherwise I find the car was a little unstable going through that section. And 6, just nice. 7 is also possible. You can try it out. You don't really lose that much straight line speed from going from 5 to 7. At most few thousands, that's all you lose. You won't really notice the difference. Front ride height though, you will notice a lot more difference in straight line speed. If you go fully up to 11, that's going to give you the best straight line speed. But given there's a lot of slow speed corners around here, you will need that front end pointiness. So you need to drop the front ride height to make your car a little more responsive in the slow speed. So 9.6 is what I'm settling for. Again, you can adjust it accordingly as you want. I'd say keep it something like this, a bit high on the front and rear, just so you get a bit of clearance on the curves, especially in sector 1 and in the middle sector where you have to take the chicane curves to get some good lap times. Brakes 150, but as you saw, I took 51 throughout the lap. Again, you can try this. If you feel 50 is okay, go for it. If you feel the car is somewhat unstable under braking, try 51 and see how it works out. Pressures, minimum on the front, 3 clicks on the rear, that's just enough. However, looking at the race performance of my friends that we commented for recently, if it's a wet race, you wanna definitely go slightly higher, maybe 2 clicks or what, just so you get better tire wear on the car. If it's dry and fully hot, fully dry, let's say like you see the weather down here, it's sunny conditions, it is time trial, so no effect in time trial, but in Grand Prix and online mode, you will notice that pressures will make a difference. Ideally, you want your tire temps to be below 95 degrees Celsius throughout the session, throughout your laps for best grip. Above 95, it starts to lose your grip, especially in the high speed and slow speed. On the straights, you don't really notice anything. So like this, 3 clicks on the rear, 0 clicks on the front is pretty good if it's a fully sunny condition. If it's gonna be overcast, there's gonna be a lot of overcast, or less sunny in its cooler conditions, I will recommend going 1 click higher. You may notice that in the race your hard tires will be pretty difficult to fire up. They barely reach 90-91 degrees Celsius, and that's fine, that's okay. But as soon as you put on the medium tires, your tires will be in the perfect range, about 93, 94, 95 degrees. You will want that. And low pressures, in general, they help you with slow speed cornering, which is quite crucial around here. If it's say if it's like a Silverstone kind of circuit, you have more high speed corners, and maybe the tire temps are not that crucial around there, you can go higher by 1 click each. Usually that's how I approach the tire pressures. And there you go, summary of the setup. 14-12 on the wings. You can go 15 for qualifying run if you feel you need a bit more front end grip in qualifying. And then in the race start also, you can start with 15 on heavy fuel with hard tires, just to give you a bit more confidence, a bit more cornering ability to follow someone else in their dirty air much easier. Otherwise, you can stick with 14-12. In the pit lane, if you feel as your stint is going through, if you feel the car starting to get snappy, just increase the brake bias forward temporarily, and then in the pit lane, drop your front wing by 1. Transmission, keep it like this. Qualifying, you can go 50. Race, I'll recommend at 51. Geometry, keep it the same, right, left. Suspension, well, if this is magical enough, go for it. You can always try it out in Grand Prix and all. Give it a few laps, practice and drive around the setup. Try to feel how the setup is reacting, and then make some changes accordingly. Give it like 4 or 5 laps of running at least. Brakes 150. 51 will be useful if your rears are wearing out a lot, and also useful in qualifying if you want to get stable rears on entry into corners. Tyre pressures, minimum on the front, 3 clicks on the rear if it's fully hot. In qualifying, you can keep this tyre pressures as well, because the softs tend to overheat a lot. You can drop in maybe 1 more click for qualifying. If it's going to be fully overcast, there's no sun at all, it's just clouds all the way, I'll say definitely go for at least 1 click higher tyre pressures, so that your race strategy will be perfect. You will not lose tyre temperatures. You do not want them to be too cold either. Anything below 90, it's still okay, but when you start to get into the 86, 87 ranges, it is gonna get a little bit slippery on the tire grip. So yeah, that's about it. For the rain, if it's a full qualifying, full inters or full wets race, just throw the downforce in and go plus 10 each, and you will be fine. You can even go plus 15, plus 20, whichever you like. If it's a mixed condition race, half wet, half dry-ish or something like that, you can go for a balanced approach, plus 5, plus 6 wins each. That will be fine either way. And yes, that is the Miami setup, and hopefully this will do well in the coming months. Hopefully no more changes to the game, and I'll see y'all in the next one, which is gonna be Spain. And I quite like the track, not like this one. So take care everyone, stay safe, check out the other setups as well, check out some ACC stuff as well, which is starting to come out in the channel. I just got my first pole in the MSRL ACC League in the wets in Nürburgring, surprisingly. And see you all around. Ciao, bye bye.